basically one of the things that I expected of you guys, and so you've done quite well. All of you, group 3. So thank you very much for illustrating us more deeply in this interesting topic. Thank you. So what about group 4? Who's in group 4? Please, would you tell me your names first?
Yeah, good evening, Professor. Well,
Good evening.
Carla Castillo,
Carla Castillo.
Domenico Ocampo,
Ocampo.
sí,
Dominic.
Ocampo, Guamán Anita,
Anita.
López Raquel,
Lopez. Rachel. Yeah.
Laglaguano Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Laglaguano.
Lalawan. Yeah. Okay.
So in
Thank
this
you.
now,
Yeah.
we are going.
Remember, you have about 15 tops, 18 minutes, no? Because otherwise the session will close and it will be difficult, no? So so just a reminder. Yeah, you have 15 to 17 minutes. Thank you.
Tonight we are going to talk about the topic that we were discussing. So now we are going to talk about classroom-based language assessment.
Yeah, great. Topic number 2 of unit 2. So the first speaker's name is.
Okay, good
Your
afternoon,
name?
classmates. My
Yes.
name is Raquel Lopez.
Yeah, Rachel Lopez. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about language teaching. In the language classroom, you involve your students in language use tasks. The purpose of this language teaching learning segments is to help your students learn the language you are teaching. Firstly, a language use task in an activity that requires people to use language to achieve a goal. Second, language teaching is the process of engaging students in language use tasks in order to improve their language skills. Third, language teaching learning task is a language use task that teachers and students participate in order to improve students' language skills. This task can also serve several additional purposes. For example, improving cognitive, emotional, social development, and motivating them to develop positive attitudes towards the language. Next, please. Okay, language assessment. The purpose of this language assessment task is to gather information about the language ability of your students. First, a language assessment task is a language use task whose purpose is to collect samples of a student's linguistic performance. Second, the term language assessment is used in two ways. In the singular, a language assessment. It refers to a collection of many different individual language assessment tasks or items. As a blanket term, language assessment. It refers to the process of collection samples of student language performance. Third, a classroom-based language assessment is a language assessment that is developed by one or more teachers in the classroom. It is important to think of language assessment as a process. Next, please.
Yes.
Okay, similarities and differences between language teaching and language assessment. Both teaching and assessment are process or activities in which teachers and students participate. In both teaching and assessment, teachers present their students with tasks that require them to use language. The main difference between teaching and evaluating is in their purpose. Teaching aims to promote learning, while evaluating aims to collect information. Next, please.
Okay, good afternoon, teacher. I am Jocelyn. I'm going to talk about decisions you need to make in the classroom.
Decisions,
Okay.
yeah.
Decisions are according to the results of the evaluation. And it's generally known that results of the evaluation in the classroom are to assign grades to the students. But the result of the evaluation go beyond putting a simple grade. And the test results will help the teacher to improve teaching and help students to improve their learning. The purpose of decision is classified into groups, as we can see in the table. The purpose of formative decision and summative decision. The formative decision that involve making change. What I mean is that, for example, in teaching, if I am a teacher, for example, I am using a specific method. For example, and if today I take a test and all the results are bad, I'm going to change my methodology.
Exactly. Yes,
And okay, and this decision can be made in during or after the process of teaching. On the other hand, we have summative decisions. These decisions have two purposes, as you said. Um, um, we have decisions that teachers are going to talk about progress. What I mean is that ensure that the students advance to the next level, or that the students doesn't have the necessary knowledge to go to the next level. And evaluation. In this decision, the teacher ensure that students are going to take a test.
test.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, relative importance of decision. All decisions are made both by teacher and by others. On the basis of the classroom-based assessment can be describing according to the relative importance. And the decisions are made on the basis of classroom-based assessment are not equally important for stakeholders. And stakeholders are people or language program or courses that may be affected by might be affect or benefit from the use of assessment. In this case, we have teachers, directors, all that work in a school.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Okay, we have low stakes decision. And these decisions are minor decisions. What I mean is that if we have the ground decision, the cost wouldn't be so high. So the error will be easy to correct. In this, as example of low scale decision, we have, for example, change our teaching task. Change, please. Change the slide, please.
Next.
high-stakes decisions. These decisions are really important decisions that affect the student lives. What I mean is that if we make the wrong decision, the cost will be high, and the error is difficult to correct. In this example, we have, for example, deciding which student will or not pass the course of the semester. Next.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to talk about modes of classroom-based assessment. I'm Paulo Campo.
Paolo Campo. Yeah, thank you.
Modes of classroom-based assessment can be done in many different ways. The implicit mode of classroom-based assessment is instantaneous, continuous, and cyclical, part of class teaching, and used mostly for formative decisions, but can also be used for summative decisions. In formative decisions, for example, correct or not correct students' response, change form of questioning, produce a model utterance, request a group response, and for summative decisions examples is pass or not pass decision based partly on classroom participation or performance. And the explicit mode of classroom-based assessment is continuous and cyclical. A separate activity from teaching, used mostly for summative decisions, but it can also use for formative decisions. Formative decisions examples, teacher move on to next lessons or review current lesson. Teacher can focus on more specific learning objective. And summative decisions, for example, decide who pass the course or grade and certify the level of the ability. Next, please. Is continuous and cyclical. Assessment is continuous and cyclical. Assessment is continuous because it's an ongoing process in support of teaching and learning. Also, assessment is cyclical because it recurs over and over during the process of teaching. For example, in this picture, we can see the assessment collect information about the student's learning. Decision use assessment information for formative decision and summative decision. And the consequences improve teaching and learning, advance and or certification. And this is a cycle. Next, please. Next, please. Using classroom-based language assessment, we can use classroom-based assessment to help make good things happen for our students, ourselves, and our school, and perhaps other individual and institutions. Language assessment uses the process of interpreting students' assessment performance as information that tells you something about their language ability, and using these interpretations to make decisions. The primary purpose of using a language assessment is to collect samples of the student's language performance. Something like we can interpret it as indicators of their language ability. Also, we help us make decisions, and we lead to beneficial consequences for stakeholders. Thank you. Next.
Okay.
Okay, using classroom-based language assessment involves linking students' assessment performance to the beneficial consequence that teachers want to help bring about. So for that, it's necessary to follow a process. First, we present a specific assessment task, for example, filling the gaps in the sentence about the vocabulary in a unit. So the students perform it and they receive a score for that assessment task. So they receive a score. In this case,
what happened with the sound? I can't hear you. I don't know if the rest of the class can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay. And then for the assessment, need to follow a process. First, the teachers present an assessment task. These tasks, for example, is filling the gaps in the sentence with the vocabulary. So students perform it, and after teacher gives a score. In this case, the number of correct words, that will be the assessment record. After that, with this score, the teacher know the language ability of the student. In this case, mastery in the vocabulary. What is the interpretation? Then teacher make decisions. If the students, for example, need vocabulary because their performance in the task was bad or good, depend on how they do it. And after that, the consequence, what the teacher needs is to, they know the vocabulary of the unit. Okay, in assessment, it's necessary to know there are two important participants, the test user and the test developer. The test user, and there are people or institutions that use the information from the assessment to make decisions, and the test developer, it is responsible for developing, administering, and scoring the assessment. For example, in the first, these people must make some decisions. For example, make feedback because the students don't know very well the vocabulary, so the consequence is that learning will improve. In the case of test developer, for example, the kind of task that students will do, for example, an interview, a small interview, and with that, the teacher can be the level of speaking ability. And it's important to know that practicality in assessment. In this case, practicality, it not refers to the quality of the assessment itself. It refers to the entire process of the assessment and the relationship between the resources available and needed when we develop and use this assessment.
Okay. The example in the real practice. The teacher took a test, and when scoring, the teacher finds the news that most of his students have a poor grade. What should the teacher do in this case? Uh, on this occasion, the teacher realized that his students must learn in another way. That is when the second time the contents are presented to the students. The methodology must be changed and use other strategies to improve student learning. For this reason, it is important to evaluate to know what methodology to use and if it is prudent to change it. Next, please.
So finally, we have the conclusions. I know that it's a It's a lot of information, but now I have in brief like conclusions. So first, current assessment helps the teacher to obtain the necessary information, which allows making changes or making decisions. As Rachel said, it is necessary. We should change our methodology or strategy in order to help our students. Also, making the right decisions will help to strengthen not only the student but also the teacher. So and also we need to take into account that all the decisions that we make are going to have a low or a significantly consequence. So we need to take into account the decisions that we make. And in brief, next Anita, please. Anita. Well, in brief, once teachers obtain the results of the assessment, they can change their methodology, the instructions, or look for strategies to help the students understand the topic. And once this process is done, it is important to verify whether the students understand or not, or to give feedback or to find out if the students are learning or not. So this is all for this is all for our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, I think the professor has done the session, but I recorded your presentation, so I'm going.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. Listen, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
Okay, well, sorry, I lost connectivity. Something happened. I have NetLife, but it said it's active, but it didn't work. So sorry, I missed the last maybe 5 minutes of the last group. Sorry about that. Yeah, and so I don't know. How much time do we have left here, Abby, or is this a new session?
Less than a minute.
Less than a minute. Yeah, and did the group finish the presentation? Because I missed the
Yes.
last 5 minutes.
Yes, they finished. Oh.
Yeah, great. Well, you have the recording. You can.
Yes, I have the recording.
Yeah, you can show me that later. Okay, so we're finishing this session, and then after that we have the last group, right? The last 2 groups. Yes.
2 groups. Uh-huh.
The last 2 groups. Yeah. So group 5, please get ready. We'll connect in maybe 5 minutes because that's the time Abby needs to finish the recording of this last session, and then we'll meet again in 5 minutes.